some comments about the welder, about the Hobart. This is Hobart Handler 140, and I want to explain a little bit about this and kind of give a little bit of a review, and really why I like it. Danny Boyd left a comment saying how maybe he'd like to use a MIG welder to do some sheet metal work, and I want to give you a little bit of a review on this and what you're going to need to do this. There's a couple of different ways to use this type of machine. One is with a spool of plain wire, welding wire, and the other way is with a flux core wire. A flux core wire, you can use it independently without any gas. This has this bottle of gas, which is what it is carbon dioxide and argon and a tiny bit of oxygen. Only I think the argon and the carbon dioxide works very well together. You don't have to have that oxygen in there. But I prefer not to use the flux core, because the flux core, what it is it's a wire that has flux in the middle of it, very similar to a stick welder. A stick welder has a rod with the flux on the outside of the rod, but they both behave a lot the same. They spatter all over and they make little beads and stuff in there. All that stuff, if you're doing body work, you're going to have to clean it off. And I mean, that could be done, but it sure is nice having a bottle of gas. This is a pretty tall bottle. This is kind of a medium-sized bottle, but you can get a small bottle. And this welder I have on this cart, so you can move it around, but you wouldn't need a cart if you're going to use it outdoors, or you're going to use it somewhere where you can carry it. You could use a small bottle of gas. You just have to have the gas strapped to something so the bottle doesn't tip over. You don't ever want that bottle to tip over. Got a neck up there, and if that breaks, that bottle will empty itself in a second, turn into a rocket, and you don't want that to happen. So the other thing with using it outside is you're going to need a power source, like an extension cord, and you're going to need a pretty hefty extension cord, like this cord right here. This works real well plugged in, but it's a pretty beefy cord, and so if you use an extension cord, you got a really beefy extension cord, and the shorter the better. So when you buy one of these, what you get is everything you see here. You get the gauges, and you get the welder, and you get the gun. This gun. Oop, try to get it out far enough. Ground strap, and then inside there's a spool of wire. And the spool of wire that comes with the welder is very, very small. It's tiny, and it's a good bunch of wire for to tease you so that you know you like it. But you're going to need a spool of wire, and the wire that I use for most of the things I do, I just go to Harbor Freight and buy the wire of the appropriate diameter. And that's going to be what you like, or what you already have, or what you're used to. The MIG welder itself, to use it as a MIG, you're going to have I don't know how well that's focused. Come on, focus. Focus. I don't know why that isn't focused. This is the wire speed. And that just, my last welder, you turn it all the way down like that, and it wouldn't feed any wire, which is kind of good, because you can bleed when you squeeze the gun, you can bleed the gas out of it to make sure you got gas all the way through. This, when it's all the way down, it still feeds wire. It's very slowly, but it still feeds wire. I don't know why it does that. But you're going to have to figure out how quickly you want the wire to feed. And this is the amount of power you have. And I found with sheet metal, you're going to go like real short little bursts, bzz, and then go like 3 inches, go bzz, and then go like 3 inches, because you don't want to overheat the panel. If you start doing a long weld, you're going to overheat the panel and warp it. So I tried to do it on this setting, but the sheet metal, I usually do this, and my wire feed somewhere around there, but every machine's probably a little different, and you'll get the feel of it. If you have not enough feed, like down here, you'll hear it burn the wire away. It'll go bzz, 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 and it'll sound like it's misfiring. And the reason it does that is because the wire burns away and it doesn't keep an arc going. If you have it too high, it'll that wire comes out real fast, and it'll actually push your gun away. You'll feel it push you away faster than it'll use the wire. So some of that'll take some feel, and the best way to do that is probably get some scraps of, if you're using sheet metal, get some little scraps of sheet metal and learn how to use it. The nice thing about the 140, without an extension cord plugging directly into the wall there, is I can go up here to 5 and run for limited time. It plugs into the wall outlet, 115, 117 volt, whatever it is, and it'll weld pretty hefty stuff, 1/8 inch, no problem at all. But you can't weld it for very long. There's a limited amount of time you can run it at that high. Although I've done some pretty good welds with it. And if you have a torch around, the other thing you can do is preheat the metal. If you have something thicker, you can preheat the metal so that something that might take 170 amps, you can do it with this with 140, because the metal's, you've already heated it, like a big hefty piece of material, like this engine hoist. If you had to weld something like that, a long weld on it, you could preheat it and weld it with this. It'd work real well. Not sure what else to tell you. Gas comes out. Where is it here? The gas comes out. That's kind of dirty. I gotta take that off and clean it. But the gas shields the weld, so you don't have any oxygen and air around the weld. Now, if you're using it outside, you're gonna have to do it in no wind or have the wind blocked or something, because that's gonna be limiting. Like when that gas is coming out there, you can't have it blowing away. The reason you can't weld something huge for a long time, it's called a duty cycle, and the duty cycle, I don't know what it is, it's probably like 20% or something. But that means you just have to be aware of that you can't be doing a big long weld on some big hefty piece of steel. You're gonna have to do shorter periods of some rest, or this thing's gonna get real hot. The other thing we do is, when we're doing something pretty hefty like that, when we're finished, we just set the gun down, and we let the machine sit there with the fan running for several minutes to try to cool it. Another thing you're going to need is a hood. This is a Harbor Freight hood, although I had it for so many years that it's self-darkening. So you can put it on, you can still see your work real well, which is kind of nice. And as soon as you strike the arc, it darkens right up. Now this one, I replaced the shield in there with a newer shield, because I really like the hood and I didn't want to go buy another hood. So I actually spent more money doing that than I would have with a new hood. But I use this Harbor Freight one for years before it started malfunctioning. Kim uses Harbor Freight hood, and hers works real well. And yeah, you can see we got a couple of Harbor Freight hoods up there, and there's another one there. So they're around, and you get ones that look pretty fancy, although those are black. Trying to think of what else I want to tell you. Not sure. The supplies you need are the wire and the gas, the welding gas. So after you buy it, you find a good price on the welder, and find a good price on the bottle of gas, and the cart. This cart is a Harbor Freight cart. It wasn't expensive, but I roll it around in the shop in here. We roll it around in the shop. So it's a nice thing to have in a shop. If I had to take it outside, I don't know what I'd use. Maybe like a kid's wagon or something. I don't know. That's kind of a heavy thing to carry around, but you could take it outside and set it near something. Oh, something else I wanted to bring up. This can't see it very well. This is a big long tube, hose, whatever you want to call it. It's got the gun at the end of it, but that wire has to feed up through there, and there's a liner inside there. It's a wound steel liner inside there. So you can't kink this hose. You can't run the hose around into a big loop and then pull it tight or something. You've got to keep it in a big loop, and you get used to doing that. When I was first welding, I kinked one of them, and I had to replace the liner. It's kind of a pain in the ass. You gotta go buy a liner. So, keep this tube from getting kinked. I'll back up a little bit so you can see there's the gun there and tube. See, that's fine like that. But if you get it real tight, you'll ruin the liner. They're not impossible to replace, but it's just something you don't want to have to do.